Steak is probably one of the most expensive things that most people like to buy and eat. So it only felt right for the first episode, the debut episode of But Cheaper, a show where we combine the most expensive version of something and find a way to make that more affordable using classic cooking techniques that could make it taste better than its more expensive counterpart. Cabinet, which is normal for this series. The very first episode is sponsored by Bounty, the quicker picker-upper. So thank you to Bounty for helping me provide these quick and easy steak methods. Bounty are 2 times more absorbent than other paper towels, so you can do more with less. So as I said before, we have 2 different steaks, completely different. This one is $70, this one is $5.75. Now let's figure out how to make steak, but cheaper.
Why is episode 1 of But Cheaper have to be like this? I like how the road cabin looks like ocean water. I think it's time to go home. What do you guys think? Yeah, that's nice. We live in Texas, so steak is cheap. Do my best to appease everybody in life on the proper steak across the board, not just for Texas people. Look at that.
Let's take a quick look at our little steaky boys. So we got one for $5.75 and another for $60. Pretty big difference. Okay, so the first steak we're gonna start with is gonna be our money bag steak. Now this is a Wagyu New York strip. It's not quite A5, but it was still about $70, so I would count that as expensive. Now if we're gonna ball out on price, we might as well ball out on the cookery of it, yeah? So go ahead and crack out the old sous vide circulator, set up to about 129 degrees Fahrenheit or 54 degrees Celsius. While that's heating, take your steak, season it generously with salt and pepper, place it in a vacuum seal bag along with 1.5 tablespoons of butter and some rosemary minus the sous vide stuff. This brings our cost up to $61.50. Yes, I know about the no on putting butter in the vacuum bag. We'll be talking about that at the very end of this video. Anyway, once you have sealed your meat and your funky meat jacuzzi is ready, drop in your steak and sous vide for 1 to 2 hours depending on the thickness. 1 hour for 1 inch, 2 hours for 1.5 inches thick.
Yeah, you don't have nerve endings.
Then simply pull your steak out.
Look at that jiggle.
Sorry. Pull out your quicker picker-upper and pat it dry with a Bounty paper towel. This drying technique is going to help you get an extra good sear. Then just heat a 10-inch skillet over medium-high heat with about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of high-heat oil in it, enough to coat the bottom of the pan. Now once that's nice and hot, drop in your steak and aggressively sear for about 1 minute per side. You want to do this as quickly as possible. We're not cooking the steak, we just want to get a beautiful brown crust like that. Once that's done, throw in a couple tablespoons of butter along with some aromatics like rosemary or thyme, some crushed cloves of garlic left in their pod, and then just baste repeatedly in butter for about 20 to 30 seconds. Again, this needs to happen quickly. Do not cook your steak, just get color. Then pull it out of the pan and let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then that's it, you just slice it up and enjoy. But now let's make our cheaper version. It's difficult to make steak cheap because you're limited by the cut, so most bargain cuts are chewier than a leather boot, alright? And I ain't eating no dang boots. My personal choice would be a little secret cut known as the chuck eye steak. This is cut from the chuck roast. Many butchers will have this, you can always ask them for this. And we're gonna cook it very simply. First, make sure your chuck eye steak is at least 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick. Start by adding 2 tablespoons of high heat oil to a 10-inch skillet. By the way, here's another quicker picker-upper trick, where you can take a Bounty paper towel, wrap it around the base of your oil bottle, then using either rubber bands or kitchen twine, tie it onto your bottle. That way when you pour it into the pan, any dribbles are caught on the towel and doesn't get the bottle all yucky. Anyway, heat your oiled pan over medium-high heat until it's just about to smoke. Make sure to pat your steak super dry with a Bounty paper towel, season it generously with salt and pepper, and add it to your ripping hot pan. Sear for 2 to 3 minutes or until you get a beautiful brown crust. Flip and sear for an additional 2 to 3 minutes. Add 3 tablespoons or 40 grams, along with any hearty herbs and crushed garlic cloves, and baste repeatedly with the butter until you reach a beautiful medium rare around 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Pull it out and let it rest for 5 minutes. I like to coat it with a little bit of butter. Now you can just slice this up and serve it as is, but just as an extra layer, I'm gonna make a little corn relish. Take 1 raw corn on the cob, shuck it and remove the kernels, place them in a bowl. You can save the corn cob for stock. To that, you're gonna add 2 red Fresno chilies finely sliced, half of a sweet onion, very finely diced. You can even mince it a little bit if you want. Some nice little limes, I don't know why I did that. The juice of 2 limes, a 1/4 cup of fresh chopped parsley, a good healthy splash of extra virgin olive oil, season to taste with salt and pepper, mix that together and you got a nice little corn relish. Then slice up your cheap steak, which kind of sounds like the dyslexic version of cheapskate. Top it with your corn relish, along with some of its juices. Let's taste test these bad boys.
This is the tasting time, but first we have to talk about bounty hack number 3. Let's go. Red wine. Cheers, bro. The price of this one. Now let's think about that for a second. And for the record, I just cut a smaller portion here. There's more steak over there. These were about the same weight, so let's start with the expensive one. You know, this is supposed to be the maximum. Oh geez. Oh. This is not A5 Miyazaki, but it is incredibly tender, incredibly marbled. The flavor is, let's try the second one. It's a little spicy. Sometimes the Fresno chilies are spicier than I remember. I mean, okay, I'll be honest with you. I like beauty and simplicity with a steak. This one to me, close to being better. But for being 10 times the price, no. And this is just about as good as this. You've got the extra lift from the dressing. You've got the extra lift from the relish that's on this. The steak itself is actually really tender. I feel like people associate low price, chewy steak. Not true, bro. Look, at the end of the day, if you have $70 to dish out for an extra steak, sure, fine. But this is but cheaper. And if you have $7, then you can still make one of the greatest steaks of your life, period.
But do you want to know what else makes the greatest steak of its life? This doesn't make any sense. Evil.
Guys, and that is it. So we made 2 different steaks, one of which was significantly more expensive than the other, and yet potentially the cheaper one was better. And thank you again to Bounty, the quicker picker-upper, for sponsoring this video. Thank you. Okay, so I know this is a little bit different of a video. I know that we are used to being in the cabinet. We're not leaving the cabinet. I'm just saying that you get to come out whenever we do this series.
You're out with it all out.
And then I'm gonna put you back in. You stay in there. You know, I hope you guys enjoy this new series. Please let me know in the comments what you think of this. What do you want to see me make cheaper? If you want something for me to take that's expensive or maybe just out of your budget and find a way to put it in your budget and make it flavorful. But with all that said, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Normally I would close the door, so instead we just put the Bounty in front of my face. Thank you, Bounty.
Same cut, same temperature, same length of cook time. They both smell identical. With butter, without butter, just facts. The idea of a tablespoon or 2 of butter in a bag, in a sous vide bag for an hour, ruining your steak is a ludicrous thought in my opinion. But all I want is for people to challenge knowledge, that's it. I've been tasting so much steak and I keep thinking like, maybe it's better, maybe it's not. I really can't tell, but the fact that I'm racking my brain so much about it tells me that maybe it's true, but pretty minute. Pretty much my final verdict here was not necessarily that it ruins the steak, but more so it just doesn't contribute that much once you've gone through the whole cooking process. Long story short, you could leave the butter out and it's probably gonna be completely fine, with or without it, depending on cook time, thickness, and all the other various variables.